I'm hitting the trail. It's time to do some talking. I'm gonna find me a honky-tonk hero with a story to tell. We'll have a chuckle. You never know, you might learn something. I'm hitting the trail. It's time to do some talking. I'm hitting the trail. It's time to do some talking.
You're listening to Tales from the Trail, brought to you by Cowboys and Indians Magazine. Now here's your host, Tyller Gummersall.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Tales from the Trail. I got to catch up with my buddy, Mr. Jim Lauderdale, in this episode. If you don't know who Jim is, you should definitely Google him. You've probably heard some of his songs. He's a Grammy Award winning songwriter, as well as being a great performing artist and recording artist. But folks like George Strait and Vince Gill and Patty Loveless and many more have recorded his songs. He wrote King of Broken Hearts that George cut. And also We Really Shouldn't Be Doing This, along with, I think, 11 others. I think George Strait really liked Jim and recorded a lot of his songs, which is pretty cool and a really nice testament to the type of songwriter Jim is. And he's also a really great guy. He's been super supportive of me and my music, and we've gotten to write some songs together over the years. His first record was actually produced by Rodney Crowell and John Leventhal, which was a great record called Planet of Love. And I think we talk about it in the podcast, but man, he records an album almost a year, maybe twice a year. So a lot of material out there, and his records really sound awesome too. They're great studio quality albums. He also received the Americana Wagon Master Lifetime Achievement Award recently, which was a pretty neat deal. George Strait came out and did a little tribute to him for that. So we sat down at his publishing company in Nashville and talked about songwriting and a few other things. There's so much to talk about with him, so I'm sure we'll do some more episodes in the future, but be sure and stay to the end, and I'll put up some links of where you can check out more of his music. I'll probably interject some songs here and there, but anyhow, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. Well, it's nice to see you again, Jim.
You too, Tyler.
It's been a little while.
It's been a minute.
Yes, a minute and a half.
Literally, because I just saw you.
A couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
So good with the jokes.
But good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I was just we were recording this week while I was here, and the guy that's the assistant on the recording was also the assistant when you were at Blackbird. Or I don't even know if he was the assistant. He was one of the students.
Oh, is that right?
Nick Molino, and he really liked you. Had good things to say.
Nick, I remember Nick.
Yeah,
he's a good fellow.
Yeah,
and that I recorded a lot of my Time Flies record there at Blackbird.
Yeah.
And Nick was part of the Blackbird Academy, where it was getting trained there. It's a really good course, and so I cut a whole lot of songs there, and it kind of morphed into what became Time Flies.
Yeah.
So that was good. Several times when I've done records, it's like I've recorded just enough, maybe one or two songs extra, but usually it's like, just enough. And this, I had even songs I used on my upcoming album left.
Yeah, like left over that you could then
yes, and there's songs left over from the upcoming album session.
Yeah, that's cool
too.
What was that like working with the guys from the Academy there?
Oh, they were really nice.
Yeah.
Good folks.
I think that's neat. I mean, the little backstory to tell the people in listener land is that I got to open for you, and then we became friends after that. And you were one of the first artists to really make sure that you were there for my show to see my set, which was really neat.
Well,
so, I think it's cool that you give some younger folks a chance. Same idea with the Blackbird Academy guys. I think that's awesome.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to warm up and rest a little bit. I think I got there just at the tail end of sound check. Wherever I was coming from to Durango took longer, and so I was planning on just
Chilling out.
preparing. But I went out and started watching your first song, and so that's why I was so ill prepared
For the rest of the
and
show.
lousy
It's my
during
fault,
my
folks.
set. that night.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
my
did
fault.
great.
Yeah, you're a road warrior. I think I remember you flew into Denver and played, and then you drove 8 hours to Durango and
I
did your
think so.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I came from Denver to Durango.
You really
That's
are
right.
a hard worker that way, man. Between recording and playing, it's some pretty serious work ethic. It's true. Well, that was one of my kind of questions on the albums. I think I tried to add up your Wikipedia. I think it's like 31 albums in the last 27 years, something like that,
Yes.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's prolific. And so, what is it? Is it like, do you love the recording process?
I do.
Yeah.
I love it. It's it's really maddening, though.
Yeah. Maddening, like makes you crazy, or
Yeah.
like makes you angry.
No, crazy.
Oh,
It
crazy.
makes me
Good.
mad at myself.
Ah.
But
Yeah.
it's just there always seems to be so much to do and going on that it's really hard to focus on writing sometimes.
Sure.
And then I book studio time much to, I'm the only one that puts these pressures on myself.
Sure.
I mean, nobody's putting them on me, so it's kind of nuts in a way to do that. But that is, in some ways, it's
challenging.
the only way I could get something done recording wise, is to have sessions and then write for those sessions.
So like having the time booked. So you book the time
Right.
at some point in the future, and then you kind of catch up with yourself, essentially, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to do it.
But for instance, last week I recorded a few bluegrass songs in North Carolina.
Cool.
I'm from North Carolina originally.
Right.
And I'd like to keep going and use North Carolina artists, musicians,
Yeah.
and bands, and do a record, because that's kind of where I got my first banjo lessons in North Carolina, and I was from a guy, Mark Pruitt, and he ended up playing on this session. He's in a group now called Balsam Range.
I've heard of them, yeah.
And so I wrote a song with John Oates called When Carolina Comes Home Again.
Neat.
And so I think that'll be the title of the album. And I wrote another song with a guy named Cy Khan called Kakalaki, which is a nickname for Carolina.
Kakalaki, okay.
And then I just recorded an instrumental thing I'll put lyrics on. But leading up to that session for the days going up, and I'm going to tentatively book a time next Wednesday there. And I've started a few things, but I don't have anything finished. So it'll be another last minute thing, but
that's cool. But do you think like that's a more, you get more kind of a creative spark under the pressure?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. However, though, when I do in a more relaxed way, like, we've co-written, and there was no, we weren't under the gun for anything, and we came up, I think, with some really good stuff, and it wasn't out of pressure. So I guess...
Oh, the only pressure is that I was writing with Jim Lauderdale.
And I was writing with you, so that's, other than that... So there's, but, so I guess the deal is that I just conceptual, think of some kind of a theme or style or whatever, and then just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another kind of question I had. So, obviously, you have songs that you record yourself, and then you have had a very prolific, successful career having other people record your songs as well. So, is there a difference between the ones that you maybe co-wrote that other people cut versus the ones you cut yourself, or no? Like in terms of that the way you tackle them.
Not really, I guess. I mean, I think they just kind of come out, and then
Well, like, were you doing demo sessions where you showed up to the session not really having it all together?
Sure.
And then out of that pressure came these songs that were recorded on the demo.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes those would turn into songs I'd put on a record. You know, I'd get some kind of a melody at the last minute or a title and not finish it, but then really like it.
Yeah.
And these days, it's for a while, the style of country that was kind of came most naturally for me, people were recording that kind of stuff.
Right.
George Strait and Patty Loveless and folks like that. And the style's just changed. And that's just inevitable that happens in a musical format. It's not going to stay the same. But I have co-written some things this past year with folks that I hadn't written with, and who knows, maybe someday somebody will cut that stuff.
Yeah.
And you never know. You know, that's the thing about songwriting, is that anything could happen in the few hours you're with a co-writer that could change one or both of your lives.
It's a good point. Yeah, that finite moment.
And you can't predict it or control that. It just just might happen.
Yeah, and just go write another song. I think, like, Tony Arata told me, like, it's probably a pretty common thing, but he said, don't ever write a song that you don't want to play yourself. So what it sounds like, basically, you write songs that you want to play yourself or would play.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of people thought, hey, that's a really good. George Strait thought that's a really great song. I want to sing it myself as well. So that's a pretty big compliment too. It's not like you're writing for something. It's like
right. And it's funny. The other day I heard a rebroadcast of Music City Roots, and I kicked off the show with a song I had stayed up all night and written for George Strait, because it was his last day of going in. This was about probably 8 years ago or something. And I thought it was going to be a perfect song for him. And I went in and got a demo session and just cut the one song I got in on somebody else's session, and then went to this other guy's place and did the vocals, and then got him over there to the studio, but he didn't cut it. But even listening to it, it's like, that's not bad, that song. And I wish, he could have, you never know. You can't predict it.
Yeah.
Which
song was that? Was that Honky Tonk Mood?
No. I haven't recorded. I haven't put it on an album.
Okay.
It's called "It Ain't Over Yet," and it was when he announced his last tour, and so I thought it was. So I kind of tried to write something that, and now he did on this record that just came out recently, cut a song that I wrote with Odie Blackman called "Two More Wishes."
Okay.
And so I'm really glad he did that. And that song is, that record came out, I can't even remember when it came out, but it was over 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm glad that he
heard it.
Yeah.
And he decided, that's neat. That's really neat. Yeah, that is a pretty neat thing, that they will live forever and always.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
I think a lot of people maybe don't know, and I'm not an expert either, but I think the way it works with copyright is if you've released a song, published a song, then anyone can cover it, essentially. But if you haven't, then the publisher or the writer chooses who gets to record it first. Is that how it works, kind of?
I don't know about that.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think but it's pretty much though, of course, if anybody cuts it, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Some used to say we were their favorite band. Gave some folks the best time they ever had. There were nights when we could do no wrong, and everybody knew when to sing along. We were all the rage in Paris, San Antonio to Dallas, and every honky-tonk and dance hall in between. Hardly had to cross the state line. Texas was our big time. Thought we'd made it far enough, 'cause we were all the rage in Paris. Bob Wills was like
Well,
a hero.
I'm interested a little bit in the journey and some of your kind of LA days and stuff. Maybe just kind of run down
Sure.
the Jim Lauderdale journey to today.
Gosh,
I know it's only
how many parts? How many
this is
2-hour segments will this be?
part 1A. This is part 1A.
Well, when I went out to LA, there was a great country scene out there, and things. I mean, it really kind of gathered a lot of energy when Dwight Yoakam started having hits, and he lived out there, and his producer Pete Anderson and Pete. And so I started playing around in clubs and trying to get a deal, get interest, and there's some really great musicians. And so I ended up doing a production deal with Pete Anderson.
Oh.
And I had a manager, a guy named John Chambotti. And so that was really exciting for me to get to work with Pete. And we used some of Dwight's band on the first record, and Pete played on it, and Al Perkins played pedal steel.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to do a show with Dusty Wakeman, who engineered it, coming up here in about a month out in the desert in California.
Oh, cool.
At Pappy and Harriet's.
Cool.
And so it was just a really fun time. The Palomino was in full swing, and that was kind of the anchor for us.
Yeah.
And but there were some great clubs, Anti-Club, the Club Lingerie, Raji's. And so it was just really, there's some really great music going on. It was very vibrant. And so I wrote a whole lot out there. And then I started writing with John Leventhal, who lived in New York City. And as I was finishing what was going to be my first album for Epic Records, but it didn't get released. And but I started commuting back and forth to New York, and John and I would demo stuff in his home studio, and he was just turned out to be a great producer.
Yeah.
So eventually I did a deal with Reprise Records, and John Leventhal and Rodney Crowell co-produced it, and it's called Planet of Love.
Yeah. It's
And
a great record.
so I was still living in LA till about, I guess, 95. I moved here to Nashville. So in the meantime, then I started commuting to Nashville a lot and writing, and mostly still on my own, and doing demos with at a place called Moondog, and studios. Gary Talent from
Yeah.
the E Street Band.
Yeah, the bassist for
That was his place. And Tim Coates, who
right.
was my engineer and co-producer.
Yeah, I know
Tim.
Tim. Yeah, Tim and Tracy.
And
right.
so we cut hundreds of songs over there. So I had a publishing deal with Blue Water Music, and that I had started getting cuts, even though my records didn't do anything on the radio. Other people,
Artists really enjoyed
and
it.
so that gave me a living, and my deal with Blue Water Music was that I had a budget. I mean, I could go in and demo as much as I wanted because I was recouping the advance money,
Right.
and so that kind of began my comfort in a lot of ways in the studio, or just kind
the
of my
repetition made you very,
and my desire just to go back and kind of being in my element more there. And so now these days I miss that, and so when I go in, it's like, well, gosh, I wish I was doing this every week
day or
every other week,
Yeah,
like I used to.
sure.
Because at that time I really wasn't going on the road very much either. I wanted to, but there was no demand for me. I mean, I'd do some gigs, but not touring.
Yeah.
And so,
But it's not the cool thing about you though is that you're able to sing your demos and arrange your demos because pretty much all the melodies, all the instrument, like hooks and stuff, instrument hooks. I think usually you're responsible for that,
a lot of
right?
times.
A lot of
Yeah,
times,
a lot
and
of
not every
times.
songwriter can do that too. So that's a unique position that you're in because you can write the songs.
Oh,
No, it's true. You
gosh,
can write them and then you're able to go record them that way. I didn't really think about that, but it's true. It's like almost that's a day in the life of Jim is writing and then going and singing your demos and creating these great things. I read I think it was in a book or something, or heard it. I was talking to somebody, but basically he said that this was Lyle Levitt or somebody like that, that the record was essentially all the demo parts, the same exact parts, and they just come in and copy everything down to the T. And I think a lot of your demos ended up
sometimes
that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. A lot of people probably don't know that the artist that's singing the song didn't write it or didn't come up with that hook, but we're just trying to give you as much credit as possible, Jim. Now on the LA thing, I'm interested too. So did you hear kind of what Dwight was doing and that like West Coast sound resurgence, and that's what drew you there? Or
No, I coincidentally,
Okay.
moved out there, but I really held him in high regard.
Sure.
And as a matter of fact, he came to my first gig, which really made me,
Yeah.
nervous that he was there.
Yeah.
His rhythm section, Jeff Donovan and J.D. Foster were playing with me at that gig. And I had one of my favorite guitar players, Billy Brimner, who had been in a group called Rock Pile.
Huh.
I had gone to one of my first gigs going to see out there was Rosie Flores, and she had Billy playing with her. And I loved Rosie, just that night, seeing her. I thought she was incredible, and she still is. Yeah. And Billy, I had really loved this group called Rock Pile, which was Nick Lowe and Billy Brimner and Dave Edmonds.
Wow, that's cool.
And so Billy was available for gigs, but Dwight came out. Pete was going to take a hiatus from touring and just produce, and so he was looking at other guitar players. So he kind of came out to check Billy out.
Cool.
And but I met Dwight, and then I ended up singing harmonies on his records, several records. I think about 5 after his first 2.
That's amazing.
And so I really am grateful about that.
Yeah.
And really, still look up to Dwight a lot. I mean, he really, has his own unique, great sound.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just, that I don't get out there enough anymore to Los Angeles. I know there's still a good, some really great singers, songwriters, musicians out there. And there was a kind of reunion in a way of folks at the old Palomino building last October, and I think they're doing a documentary on it or something. But
Nice.
I got to see so many pickers and singers there that I knew from the day, and folks that would just come to the shows. It was really, really touching to be there.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Well, that whole area and in the desert too. You're talking about that. I mean, the whole thing with Lucinda and even Graham Parsons and all that stuff. A lot has happened out there, and it's a different sound, a little twangier sound. Buck Owens and
Right.
Merle and all
Well,
those guys.
It was kind of the Bakersfield sound, which was a lot of that was recorded in Los Angeles at Capitol Records. It did have kind of a little rawer sound. A lot of those players, singers, a lot of them performed in honky tonks, and of course in the Nashville area, a lot of those artists as well. But there was something. There's kind of a element of, I don't know, it's just kind of against the grain or something.
Yeah,
In that area.
that's a good way to put it.
And it's maybe the geography or something too, just the open spaces, and that's just kind of a little freer sometimes, and just so much great music, especially Buck Owens and Haggard,
Yeah, hard to beat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's interesting because to me, your music is kind of that, like picking up these interesting pieces from there and from here and from North Carolina bluegrass and West Coast and Nashville and all this stuff, and that ends up being Americana, or it ends up being Jim or American music, whatever you want to call it. But do you think that's an accurate kind of thing? How has your music evolved over the years, I suppose, is my question. Or was it always eclectic? Because you're eclectic.
I think in some ways, because when I first started playing out more, it was fairly eclectic.
Yeah.
Like I'd play my banjo some, I'd play a guitar some, dobro some, harmonica, and do kind of the whole variety stylistically, from country, bluegrass, blues, soul, folk, and rock. And I was doing a lot of solo gigs, and then I started having a pedal steel player who also played telly play with me. That was when I was in college, and so then from there, when I moved up I came to Nashville for a while, and about 5 months, and then and ended up doing that record with Roland White, which I couldn't get a deal for at the time, and it finally came out, and this last year, and it was my 32nd and first, would have been my first record.
That's really neat.
And so then when I moved to New York, and Buddy Miller was up there, and Larry Campbell and Shawn, Colvin, I was playing more country band stuff, and also was in a couple of bluegrass bands, but wasn't doing too much solo stuff. But then when I started touring more, a lot of my touring has been solo, and I enjoy it a lot. And then, but now with this new record that's coming out called From Another World, I'll be doing more band dates. So that's cool. I'm gonna enjoy that.
Yeah, it's a very different experience, solo versus band. For me, anyways, it's its own thing. Both of them are its own thing.
It is, but I think it's really good for you to do solo stuff. It really,
I agree. Yeah, you learn the fundamentals.
Yeah.
You can put on a great show with just you and your guitar, which you can.
Well, hey, quit talking
You
about
being
yourself.
Jim Lauderdale. Catches me on everything, this guy. I can't let anything slide. Oh my goodness. That's yeah. It's there's a lot more going on with the band mentally for me, kind of. You know,
Yeah.
a little distracting almost.
Sure.
Especially when you have really good players and they play awesome things, and you start like drifting off,
Right.
listening.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you have steely vocus,
Well,
and that does that come from your martial arts?
I
Steely
think
focus?
maybe steel wool
Steel
focus,
wool
not
focus.
steely.
Ah.
But I don't know. I think it's a musical thing. Yeah.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit about the upcoming record. I think, did you guys just do a single, The Listen? Is that a single off
Yes,
that?
there's a few singles out that have been out. One I wrote with Logan Ledger and Melba Montgomery called For Keeps.
Okay.
And pretty country ballad. And then The Secrets of the Pyramids I wrote with Logan. And there's a video of that, and then a video of this song "Listen" that I wrote with Buddy Cannon.
Oh, okay.
And
Neat.
yeah,
That's really neat.
yeah,
That's cool. How many, you said there's some songs left over from the last record that will be on
yes,
this, or no? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a few. I played. I wanted to make it 15 songs, and the record company really wanted 10. And so it was really hard to let those go. And then I played, and so I was thinking about doing 20, but they really didn't want to do that. But I actually had it.
Yeah, ready.
And then I played a few things for my manager, and Jeremy, and he really liked 2 of the songs that I was just kind of tossing out there when I was thinking of 20 songs. And he really encouraged me to put those on the record. So there are 12.
Yeah.
But I left off 3 especially that I really wanted on there.
So look forward in the future, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it funny how sometimes the songs that maybe you're not quite as excited about going into it become excited?
Yeah.
Or exciting?
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah. Yeah, in the room.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I know you're a busy guy. I think I might be able to pick this up with you in Texas in a little while. So this might be a part A and part B podcast.
It might be.
Yeah.
If there's anything else that you left out or think of later, or if anything new happens with me.
Well, between now and then, I mean,
few weeks,
we got to talk about.
Probably be a month. I think it would be from now. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think it will be
something else.
I want to see what it'll be like. Nashville Jim, and then
the Texas
Jim.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe you'll be wearing a hat.
I might be.
Thanks for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you.
Well, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, there's also a podcast audio only version out there where the podcasts are to be found, and vice versa. If you're listening to the podcast, you can also go to Cowboys and Indians YouTube channel and look up the video for it. There should be a video for this episode. Now, I threw in a little clip of a song of Jim's called All the Rage in Paris, which the Derailers recorded. That's a great band, man. I believe they cut that down in Austin. Tommy Dedamore's playing steel pedal, and it's just the whole record is a great record. It's called This Changes Everything. So go check that out. Jim also has some new ones out there, I believe. You can visit jimlauderdalemusic.com for that info. I believe his most recent release is on Yep Rock Records. I could be mistaken. I believe it's called From Another World. So go ahead and check that out as well. Check out his old discography, man. There's a lot of really good stuff. As always, you can find more information about this podcast and other podcasts if you just search Tyler, Tyller, at cowboysandindians.com. And be sure and check out their social media platforms and tune in because they have a lot of great, exciting content all the time. Music and everything Western. And if you'd like to find out more about me and my music and all that good stuff, you can visit Tyler Music, TYLLER music.com, and drop me a line. Say, let me know what you think about the podcast and such. So, anyhow, until next time, keep on keeping it Western. All right, we'll see you down the trail.